22,000 feet of elevation gain. That's like climbing to the topmost point of the Empire State Building, over 15 times. That would be more elevation than summiting Mount Fuji or Kilimanjaro, from sea level. And I'd have 36 hours to climb that. Oh, and run 100 miles. My father taught me at a young age that when you get knocked down, you get back up and try again. The Bryce Canyon 100 miler knocked me down hard, and was the first race in my life I didn't finish. The problem is, after getting up, how in the hell do you prepare for something even tougher than the thing that knocked you down in the first place? The IMTUF 100-mile race is one of only 15 Hardrock qualifiers in the entire United States. It has approximately 22,000 feet of elevation gain and loss over the course of 100 plus miles. There can be huge swings in temperatures from 90 degrees during the day down to almost below freezing at night. It is in a remote and rugged section of the Salmon River Mountains near McCall, Idaho. Aid stations are often remote with no crew access and can be over 11 miles apart. As we learned from a very tragic race in China, ultramarathons can not only be challenging and test the very limits of human endurance, but a misstep can have lethal consequences.
That would claim the lives of more than 20 of the race's participants.
As ultra and trail runners, we walk a fine line between greatness and disaster. We run the razor's edge. So how do you prepare for arguably one of the hardest ultras in the US after failing to finish your last race? You break down the breakdowns. You have to detail every aspect of the race that fell apart and fine-tune training, especially during long runs. At Bryce Canyon, I wasn't prepared for the heat. Didn't have a backup plan for water. And nutrition became a problem. These would be the three key elements I would have to hammer out over the next few months leading up to this monumental race, or there would be no possible way I could finish this monster. To do well in a hot, rugged mountain race, you have to prepare by running in hot, rugged environments. I tried to run in the early afternoon, especially on my long runs, so I could train my body to function in wicked heat environments. I was lucky to live next to mountain trails in Colorado Springs, but would also hit the treadmill and jack the incline up to 40% for hours at a time. For my longest run, I attempted a Pikes Peak double ascent that was self-supported and in the heat of the summer with temperatures swelling well above 90 degrees.
Pikes Peak loop number 1 done. It is freaking hot as crap down here.
I got wrecked, but ran over 45 miles and climbed over 13,000 total feet. I arrived at McCall with my running training in the bank.
That's the North Crest Line. That's the big one. Like Jared's.
I felt confident in my plan and had detailed maps and aid station breakdowns to make sure I had everything I needed.
Yeah, we got stuff here. I think everyone's got socks.
This would be my most isolated and rugged trail run to date, but I had my plan. But like Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Okay, awesome.
Rich, you good to go? Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Step your game up.
I started out on pace, extremely slow and easy.
Okay, yeah.
I was almost in last place within the first couple of miles, but stuck to my plan every time I got past.
What's that?
However, I realized before the first aid station my laminated maps and aid station sheet came out of my waistband and were gone. The course started pummeling me in the face. There were some steep climbs and some incredibly technical descents, both of which hammered the legs.
Just came down some really technical stuff. Climbing down that mountain. The view is beautiful.
I knew that all of my training, all of the miles, all of the steep climbs that I had practiced on were preparing my legs for this. But it was one thing to prepare and another to actually perform on race day. Even though I knew the course was taking its toll on me, it was easy in the beginning to focus on the trail, the mountains, and get into a flow state with running. The rhythmic cadence of footfalls allows the mind to enter a state of conscious meditation, and the body just flows over the course.
Hey, thanks.
I started passing a lot of runners who started to succumb to the heat, elevation, and sheer amount of vertical climbing and descents of the course.
Back to the sweet, blessed trails.
However, no one is immune to the nature of a 100-miler, and the suffering began. It was a very dry season in Idaho, and the trails were caked in powdered dirt, which promptly made its way into my socks and shoes. Normally it's not an issue, but after miles of friction I began to develop sores around my ankles with every footfall. Temperatures soared, and with the aid stations hours apart, it was difficult to stay cool. I still had faith in my training and mental toughness to finish, but the challenge was literally starting to heat up, and I knew all too well that overheating for me is a recipe for total disaster. I got a nasty sore on my ankle from all the dirt that rubbed my skin raw. I also kicked a rock with my right big toe, so that by mile 35 I had a giant blood blister under my toenail.
Alright, there we go. Yeah, it's me. Thank you so much. All the right? Okay, thank you. Get on camera. I love you. Alright, we'll see you guys. I will.
I pressed on, determined to go the distance this time. Even though the race started with almost 200 runners, after hours of running you get spaced out so that you are left alone to your thoughts. They can turn to positive things, about how beautiful the scenery is, about how much you've accomplished. Or they can easily go negative and focus on the pain, the suffering, and the distance and time you still have left to go. They say that the #1 cause of failure to finish an ultra is GI-related issues. I believe it's actually mental toughness. I've run with GI issues for over 40 miles, and it was one of the most miserable times in my ultra career. But I finished the race. If I would have quit, it would have been a mental choice.
Once again, you guys said it's about 10 miles to next one? Okay, oh, sorry, sir. Thank you so much. And 183 is also out. Oh, hey, guy.
Once the seed of doubt is planted, it is almost impossible to uproot, and the mind craves an excuse to stop going. For me, past failures happened long before I physically quit. I quit in my mind, and then the body succumbed. The temperatures climbed into the high 80s, and by mile 60, most of us were running on borrowed energy. Once darkness begins to fall, it tends to take hope with it. By this point, you are frequently running alone, and all you can see is a small cone of light in front of you. I had been running and hiking for hours, and the full weight of what I was trying to do set in. The thought of 20 more hours of hiking through the mountains threatened to crush my hope of finishing this race. And once those thoughts set in, they are like a poison that spread from the mind through the whole body. At that point in the race, I had one goal: make it to the next aid station.
Way to go. Keep it up.
I've heard wise advice that you can't try and digest the idea of a 100-mile race all at once. You have to focus on small goals, like making it to the next aid station, the next mile, or just the next tree or bend in the trail. The sight of volunteers and the smell of broth broke the chains from my mind and allowed me to take the next step, and the next, until I was pushing to the next aid station, but once again, I was alone. By this point, I was dumping weight to try and conserve energy for the back 40 miles and all the ascent still left. I left one of my LED light systems with a spare battery pack at the station and started a nasty section of climbing. About 1.5 miles past the aid station on the side of the mountain, my headlamp went out with a dead battery. Luckily, I had my spare, but with no moon, it was pitch black and it was difficult to find the lamp and get it turned on. The mountain was determined to chew me up and spit me out.
Nice job. Hey, good job. Good job.
Once I hit the mile 80 aid station, my legs were shot. Temperatures had dropped into the 30s overnight, and I was freezing cold and so incredibly stiff and sore. After a warm meal, I almost couldn't get out of my chair, and the thought of climbing over 4,000 feet more in 20 miles almost broke me. The pain in my feet and legs was intense, but I refused to give up a second time this year. I passed more runners, but it started getting hot again, and it took great effort to calm the mind and not focus on how bad the climb sucked with dead legs.
Oh,
It was a several-hour slog climbing back up the mountain we first ran down at the start. The mile 91 aid station came and went, and I knew that finishing was inevitable. Knowing that the faster I ran, the sooner I could stop, I began throwing down 8 to 10 minute miles. The 20-mile race started Saturday, and we started running the same course to the finish. I started passing some of the 20-milers and knew I couldn't stop at this point or my legs would not start again.
He is. He's finishing up the end of 100 miles. He's coming down.
But at 31 hours, 52 minutes, and 41 seconds, I crossed the finish line and completed the most challenging and trying race of my life. I had run the razor's edge, and I came out victorious.